Welcome to the Beyond the Bestseller podcast. I'm your host, Kelly Schuknecht, and today's guest is Betsy Pepine, author of Breaking Boxes, Dismantling the Metaphorical Boxes That Bind Us. Welcome, Betsy.
Oh, thank you. I'm happy to be here, Kelly.
I want to start out by just having you tell us about this book. We talked about you're in real estate, but so this book, I wanted to ask you about why you wrote this. And this is not a direct tie to promoting your business necessarily. So this was more of just a fun passion project for you. So I'd love for you to just share a little bit about the book and why you wanted to pursue that.
Yeah. Unlike a lot of my colleagues who write lead gen books, I did not. I was on this journey of self discovery for the last several years and learned so much about myself in the process of what it takes to build a life, not just what it takes to build a business. And I was probably under the mindset prior that as long as you were successful, you were happy. And I found that I wasn't. And so through this journey, I was documenting the journey, sharing it with a lot of people. I heard other people's stories of their own experiences feeling stuck in certain elements of their life. And my goal in writing the book, I joke and I tell people the book was birth. The book was coming, whether I liked it or not. I just felt like I had to get my story out because it resonated with so many people. And in that process, it has created the ability for me to do something also outside of my real estate career, which is to move into more of a thought leader in real estate, but more of a thought leader and speaker in terms of empowerment and owning our lives. So that's a space that would not have been accessible to me had I not written the book. And it has opened itself up to me because I wrote the book.
Yeah, yeah. So what are when you talk about metaphorical boxes that bind us, what are some examples of that you feel like
Yeah.
people are dealing with?
They're everywhere, but they're boxes. These are the attitudes, beliefs, opinions of others that affect us. And so it could be something as simple as your family of origin. In my family of origin, there was an expectation that everybody, the siblings, my sisters and I, would become physicians. We would follow in our father's footsteps. That's what we did growing up. We volunteered at the hospital he worked at. We were all pre-med in college. My other two sisters went back to his university and became physicians. It was assumed. And it affected me a lot because I chose not that path. And in fact, my first career was in the pharmaceutical industry, really to placate the pressure I felt to be in that space. And I was very unhappy. And so it could be that. It could be boxes based on our gender. I've been flat out told I've been given opportunities because I'm female. And that's very offensive to me because I've worked so hard in my business to really succeed and have an impact in the community. And then to be told they needed the token female on the board, that just, that doesn't sit well with me. It could be the roles we play. What does the good girl, good daughter, good wife, same with the men. It's just not all women. What do those roles create for us and how we're supposed to live or be or behave? And when we decide maybe that doesn't fit what we want, are we strong enough to be okay with not everybody approving? So it's all of those kinds of boxes. It could be based on your industry. It could be speaking with one gentleman and he felt like he was in a box based on his diabetes as a child. He's been a diabetic since he was a child. Another gentleman told me he was an African American, very large African American, tall male. He said, everybody assumes he played football or he loves football, and neither of which were true. You just assume this.
Mhm.
The danger of boxes, it's like when the minute you put a label on something, to some degree, you stop seeing it because you assume so many things based on one thing. I remember a girlfriend of mine was telling me how she had to leave because she was running late for a dinner party. She was in a group where every month they picked a different house and then they would pick a country and then that was the theme. And then you would cook things from the country and you would have wine that was based on the country.
Oh.
And I was like, oh, that sounds so fun. I said, who's hosting this month? And she's Father Jeff. I'm like, Father Jeff, like the priest at Queen of Peace? She's, yes. And I was like, I thought, that doesn't seem right. And then I was like, why doesn't that seem right? I don't know anything about
Right,
Father Jeff
right,
other than what he does as a profession. Yeah, he
right.
might love wine. He might love to travel. I don't know. But I was very surprised. And I'm like, why am I surprised? And so that's the danger is we start assuming all these things that we know nothing about and then come to expect certain behaviors and beliefs just because of one aspect of one's personality. I'm a diehard introvert and people are always so surprised. I'm like, I'm not shy. I speak my opinion, but I derive my energy from within. But they
Right.
assume so many other things when they hear the word introvert. So that to me is the danger of boxes. And so that's what the book is about is understanding these boxes. Why do we stay in boxes when they do not serve us? Now, some boxes are fine. I'm not saying all boxes are bad. And some boxes serve us at certain times in our life,
Sure.
but we
Yeah.
outgrow them. And we also, we're not victims. We put ourselves in boxes. It's not
Yep.
just other people putting us in boxes, and we put other people in boxes. So it's just it's a universal condition. And I joke because I've got two dogs sitting beside me and they're not worried about boxes. They're not worried about if they were a good dog today. They're not worried about failure and fear of failure. And are they going to, be successful at chasing that squirrel this afternoon? It's a human construct, these boxes, but even though they are not physical, they are very real.
Yeah, yeah. No, I feel like we were meant to have this conversation today because I have a speaking event in this summer, probably around when this episode will actually come out. And I have been trying to get my head around my message and what I'm trying to share. Because in my head, I know, but I've been like struggling with what is the actual message I'm trying to convey. And so actually this morning, I just had this moment of I sat down to do my journaling, which I do every morning. And I've been struggling with my journaling too, because I've been trying to use that time to write a little bit of the book that I'm writing that's going into the message, all this that I'm developing. And for some reason this morning I started writing and it was like, oh, like it started coming out. And some of the things that I wrote are things that you're saying. Like when you said good girl, that is actually one of the things I wrote in my journal this morning as I was writing
Mhm.
my story, just like trying to get my head around. And I love how you frame it. It's the boxes we put ourselves in or the boxes that other people put us in. My message is like the uncovering the person behind the person. When I started my business a few months ago, I realized for the first time how much more capable I was than I thought I was when I was living in the box that someone else had created for me, in the box that
Mhm.
I was like
Mhm.
feeling like I had to be in, right? I couldn't see myself as the person. I was the person that was supporting the person. I was the one that
Mhm.
was building their thought leadership platform, helping them get out there, helping them be seen as
Yeah.
the expert, right? So I knew how to do all the things. I was just doing it for someone else.
Mhm.
Anyways, so yeah, so I had to like just been like really thinking through this deeply this morning. So grateful to have your
Mhm.
perspective on that. You talked about like, the feeling of not being happy. I don't remember how you said it, but not being fulfilled or not being happy even despite the success. And I would say if I could look back, that was probably where I was also a couple of years ago, but I didn't recognize it. And then now I'm starting to
Mhm.
realize like how not unhappy, but just like how unfulfilled, maybe that's a
Mhm.
better word for it, I
Yeah.
was. And I wonder if I don't know, I guess I'm just curious if you have thoughts on how people can be more self-aware of that feeling. What are some of the signs
Yeah.
that you're putting yourself in a box or you're not happy or you're not fulfilled and that maybe it's time to move
Mhm.
on or maybe it's time to start that next
Mhm.
thing or yeah. So I'm curious if you have thoughts on what those signs are for people.
I say we can't get out of boxes we're not aware we're in. So the first step is awareness. And how to it's almost like a baby in a bassinet. And you put the baby in the bassinet, which is the first box we're ever put in for safety, right? And it serves its purpose. But then as the baby grows, you move it to a crib. And then as the baby grows, it starts standing up from the crib, it starts peeking over the crib. It realizes
Mhm.
there's choices outside of that box, right? And so how do we recognize that there are choices? And there really are. It's amazing to me because everything is a choice. There's nothing in our world that is is set in stone. We have so many, there's so many choices, but we believe it's like the elephant chained to the stake. We believe that's the only option because that's the way it's always been done. But every single decision you make could be a different decision. It could be. So we just have to me, we start questioning everything we're doing. Why are we doing it? Who is it serving? How does this make me feel? Like this is why I think it took me into my 50s to realize it, because I grew up in an environment where feelings were not addressed and they were not, it's just my parents weren't raised in that environment, so they didn't know. And so it was always, Betsy, what do the facts tell you? How do you think? I was never asked, Betsy, how do you feel? So it's really taken me a lot of work to get to even recognizing, how do I feel? How does this make me feel? In my body, your body will tell you before your mind knows. And so that's been a journey in and of itself. And for me, I felt like I was going back to kindergarten. I got out you can print out the feelings wheel. There's feelings wheels online. It looks like a color wheel, but it's a feelings wheel because when I first started this journey, I knew I either felt good or bad, and that was it. And I had a pretty high tolerance for bad. So even then that wouldn't have been a red flag for me. And so it's understanding and being aware of how things make me feel. And there's a wonderful app called How We Feel. It's a free app and I've
Okay.
downloaded it on my phone. You can program it so it makes your phone vibrate with whatever frequency you like. So throughout the day it vibrates and it shows up the screen with all these different feeling bubbles. You quickly click the bubble. You can, if you want, type in what you're doing, who you're with, and who you're with, what you're doing, and what environment you're in. And you can start to see what environments, people, and things make you feel good and what don't. Because it's very basic, but that's what I needed because I really felt very elementary in this subject. There's also a great book called Atlas of the Heart by Brene Brown, which is basically an encyclopedia of every feeling that we can experience. So just having that knowledge and getting in tune with your feelings and then trusting them and being okay. You may not know why you feel a certain way, but trust that's okay and move toward that which makes you feel lighter, happier, more freeing and away from the more heavier emotions. That to me has been golden. So that to me would be the first step. The second step is identifying once you're aware that you're not feeling comfortable, but you're stuck, then identify what fear is keeping you stuck. And usually it's either a fear of failure, a fear of change, or a fear of loss. And then
Mm.
write it down. I always say worst case scenario, write it down. Once it's things can just get so crazy in your head, but once you write it down, everything looks very doable and manageable. And so I always say, Betsy, worst case scenario, worst case, what's going to happen? Worst case, whatever it is, doesn't turn out the way I had hoped. So I have to pivot. Okay, I've had to pivot in my life before. Not a big deal. And I will have learned something very valuable that I will take with me for the rest of my life. So that's worst case scenario. And worst case scenario, research has shown, happens 3% of the time. That's when I see that, then it's okay. Fear is just, it's ridiculous. I mean, when you think about it, it's ridiculous. But when you don't think about it, I let it stop me from pursuing an authentic life.
Yeah, I did this. So earlier on in the podcast, I had a woman named Elizabeth on, and she has a book. It's 50 Ways to Say No. But part of that conversation was about journaling. And she has a journaling course that she does. And so I signed up for her course because I was really interested. Anyway, one of the journaling exercises was like thinking of that thing that's like waking you up at night, or a thing you're stressed about, or whatever. And your little furry friend is joining you for those who are listening and not watching. It's very cute. It was like, what's the worst thing that could happen in this situation? And for me at the time, it was like I had lost my job and I'd started a business and what if it doesn't grow? But so, you sit there and you journal about, okay, what's the worst thing could happen? And then what would I do in that case? And as I started thinking through it, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I could take out a loan, I could do that, I could
Yeah.
pull from savings, I could do whatever. There was things that I was like, "Okay, and if that's the worst case scenario, that's not the end of the world, I'll
Right.
figure it out." But it was like, honestly, like that thing that you just keep, like, rolling around in your brain, like, you can't
Yeah.
sleep and it wakes you up at night, you're anxious about it, whatever, and then when you think through it really hard like that, "Oh, this is not it's not
Right.
not the end of the world, it's not tragic, we'll figure it out." Anyway, I loved that exercise. So just a good one for anyone. I love
Mhm.
that you brought up journaling too, because that is, I think, or you talked about just writing it down, but like for me, that's just like the thinking through it, journaling, getting those thoughts out of your head. I think that's so
Yeah.
important.
Yeah. The other thing
Yeah.
that you just reminded me of, something that I love to do is making myself consciously, whenever I say yes to something, I have to write down what I'm saying no to, because it's so easy to say yes, but you don't realize, if I say yes to this person, this thing, it might be out of alignment with myself. What am I then saying no to?
Mhm.
And am I willing to make that trade-off?
Yeah. Yeah. So what about, I wish I had read your book probably a few months ago when I was thinking that the problem was me and that I was like stuck in this corporate environment and I was the problem. I worked so hard to get my head like in the right place all the time, just trying to stay focused on the job and trying to stay focused on the results and trying to stay positive and whatever. And then I look back and I'm like, I wish I would have just made
Mhm.
a change earlier on. But I don't remember the three things you said, but fear of change, fear of
Fear of
failure, and what
failure,
was
fear of change, and fear of loss. So
of
we talked
loss.
about
Yeah.
failure. Fear of
Yeah.
change, like, to me, that's a muscle. It's getting comfortable being uncomfortable. And so I purposely I have a daily tracker, and I purposely seek out ways to make myself uncomfortable at least once a day. It
Yeah.
might just be the ice cold shower I take every morning. I live in Florida. Thrive in heat. So this is very uncomfortable for me, but I know I am building up my muscle, and it really makes you incredibly resilient, even if that's the only thing you're going to do that makes you uncomfortable that day. But anytime I see an opportunity where I'm like, oh, that's going to make me uncomfortable, I raise my hand because I know it's building that muscle. So I would just encourage people to do that, because it really does help you then feel invincible, because you just get so used to adapting to the unknown. You get comfortable being uncomfortable. And then the fear of loss is usually either loss of status, which I did. I had to face that. That's my ego talking whenever I feel that. Like, I switched careers and I lost status within my family when I went into real estate. They wanted me to be a physician. Now I'm going into a profession that requires a 1 week online class and a 3 hour test. And that did not sit well with my family of origin. But I'm visual. I say, Betsy, that's your ego. You're not your ego. Put your ego on the shelf and move forward in the direction of your dreams. So that's how I talk myself out of status. If it's a fear of loss of social connection, which is a very real one, and we are social creatures, we need social connection. Anytime you make a move, it's like a chess game, and you've moved a chess piece. The game has changed. You are going to make people feel uncomfortable, threatened. They're not going to approve, whatever. But to me, it's you're making a move to your future self. So you have to shore up your relationships that will be beneficial to you for your future version of yourself. It's like pruning a tree. You have to prune back every year for beautiful growth. It's you're going to you're going to leave some relationships behind. Not everybody's going to move with you. That's okay. Relationships are not meant to be forever. They complete themselves. They serve their purpose for both parties. And it doesn't have to be this dramatic breakup. It's just recognizing and honoring the role they played in your life and moving on. And that took
Yeah.
me a while to get my head around, because I used to take endings very personally. And
Yeah.
now I understand that it's just a part of life. They're not designed to be forever. Doesn't mean
Right.
it failed. It just meant it's complete. And then the other one, loss of financial security. I faced that when I was pivoting from a very stable job with great benefits to being a realtor where your 1099 income goes up and down, single mom. Nowadays, I don't know that's as threatening for people, because when I did it 25 years ago, we didn't have remote work. We didn't have all the gig economy. We could drive for Uber and make extra money. You just didn't have the options you have today.
Yeah.
Don't know if that is as scary. Yes, you're going to face some financial hardships. Maybe income will go down for a short period of time. Most people can handle that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but that was the biggest thing holding me back was just like, how do I how do I go from a corporate salary and benefits to nothing?
Mhm,
And now I look back and I'm like, I probably could have taken out a loan for a
mhm.
small amount, small, like $100,000 or whatever, and I could have started my business pretty easily. But
Yeah.
I didn't trust that. I didn't know
Yeah.
that. And yeah, so that's part of my message is I want to share with people like that to not be afraid of taking that
Mhm.
leap. And it sounds very similar to
Yeah.
what you talk about.
I experienced a corporate layoff, And I had always thought my dad still works at the same company or the same hospital he worked at. We moved here in 74. He's 84 and still practicing there. He'll be 84 in June. And that was always the secure job. I got laid off in pharma and I thought, I don't want anyone to ever have the ability to fire me again. I'll fire myself, but I don't want anybody else to tell me I'm fired. And
Right.
so that was a great blessing. And not at the time because I was recently a single mom, but looking back, it gave me the power because I believe in myself. So I felt confident that I can provide value. And if you can provide value, you can earn a living. I didn't like the lack of control that somebody else could determine my fate. And
Yeah.
that gave me being laid off oddly gave me the encouragement to bet on me instead of a third party.
Yeah. Love that. So did writing the book, it sounds like it was somewhat like therapeutic for you that you needed to get that message out. You got it out. Did you
Yeah.
feel that kind of relief in getting that message out through the written word? Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's great. I work with a lot of women who are writing their messages now, and I think a lot of us have that, like, feeling of, "I have to share this in some
Mhm.
way," so I'm
Mhm.
glad that you did do
Mhm.
that. So I'll link to your book in the show notes. Is there any other way that listeners can find you online, get in touch with you, find out more about
Yeah.
what you're doing?
So I have a website, my name, betsypepine.com, and more about me and what I'm doing are on there. Sign up for my free newsletters on there. I'm also on all the social handle or social platforms at my name at Betsy Pepine. Those are the easiest ways to find me.
Great. Betsy, thank you so much for coming on, and thanks for putting your message out there into the world.
Oh, thank you, Kelly.